What's going on, guys? Thanks for coming back to the For Low channel. So we're going to skip the intro and just get right into it here. So earlier this summer, I was talking about how when I look at the automotive landscape out there right now, I just don't really see a whole lot that makes me feel like getting another truck right now. But obviously I did that video because I had been thinking about it. I've been looking around a little bit. And I guess one of the things that I just haven't really talked about a lot on this channel are the EVs, particularly pickup trucks, electric trucks. So I just want to kind of get into this for a minute. So I haven't talked about this a lot on the channel because it's kind of a polarizing topic. But anyway, so just a little brief background on me. My father is a master mechanic. He's got over 50 years of experience working on everything imaginable. So I grew up around it, cars and trucks and tractors and heavy equipment and forklifts, golf carts, ATVs, anything that's got tires on it. I grew up around that kind of stuff. And, when I was a little boy, I spent a lot of time hanging out in shops, and different things with him. And so that's where, my passion for cars and trucks and Jeeps and everything came from, which is a story that you hear pretty often. It's pretty typical, right? So that's kind of how I got into all this kind of stuff. However, there's another side of me that's kind of techie and nerdy. And even though I grew up around that old-fashioned mechanic, blue-collar lifestyle, I'm also the second person in my big extended family who went to college and earned at least a bachelor's degree. So if you kind of look at my whole big family, a lot of them are just hardworking blue collar people, and when I went off to college, like I said, I was the second person in my family to do that. I kind of got into that science and technology field because that's what I had always kind of been interested in. So all of this to say that I'm kind of, I guess you would say well balanced. I'm kind of the old fashioned country folk mentality, but at the same time, I've got that modern techie kind of interest also. I kind of have both mixed in me. So anyway, all of this to say that when these electric pickup trucks really started to get more traction, no pun intended, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've kind of been intrigued by them. Now, like most people, I've had my skepticism over them. There's a lot of people out there who are skeptical about electric pickup trucks. I have been one of them because I've had a lot of questions about how this would work out. How would daily life really be with one of these, so on and so forth, right? And you guys know if you've been watching the channel for a while that I use my trucks, okay? I'm not one of these people that just buys a truck to go to the grocery store. I haul things, I tow, I use my trucks on and off road. I use them out in rural Kentucky where my truck is dirty all the time. I actually use my truck and I need a truck around here. So, I've always just kind of been curious. There's always been this part of me, this modern techie mentality part of me that's kind of curious about these electric trucks. But I've had my skepticism about them too. So in the back of my mind, I've always kind of wanted to try it, live with one for a year or two and just see, what this is really about. And last week, I found out that the federal tax rebate is going away on the electric trucks. All electric vehicles, really. There's been a $7,500 federal rebate on the EVs for a long time now, but I'm filming this at the end of August 2025, and next month, the end of September 2025, all of that is going away. So these massive discounts and rebates that you can get when you combine the federal tax credit with what the automakers are offering, with what the dealerships are offering, you put it all together, you've got these huge discounts and rebates that you can get on these electric trucks right now. That's all going away here in 5 weeks. So I've been thinking about this again, and I'm like, if I'm going to try this, if I'm going to get one of these trucks and, and use it as a truck and do my experimentation with it and just, try it out, right now is the time to do it. Because if I wait another couple of months, it's not going to be very easy to justify it anymore. The prices are going to go way up on these things, and it's just not going to be worth it to do it anymore. So if I'm going to do this, right now is the time to do it while these prices and deals and offers out there are so good. In fact, you can get into these electric pickup trucks for much less money right now than getting a new gasoline or diesel truck. So again, I probably wouldn't buy one because there's that's a whole nother video we can do. But I would lease one for a couple of years and just try it out. And, that way I don't have to worry about working on it. Don't have to worry about it if it breaks down. I don't have to worry about getting hosed on it financially. You drive it for 2 or 3 years, and then if you love it, you can keep it. If you don't love it, you get something else. That's the way to go on something like this right now. That's an early technology, I think. Just test the waters with a lease, see how it goes. So anyhow, I'm going to quit rambling now because I always do that. But you get what I'm saying. I've had my skepticism, and I've been vocal about it. My skepticism over these electric trucks, but as I always say, the best way to find out is to try it, right? So I've really been thinking about this. There's been some other trucks that I'm kind of interested in too, but hey, right now is the time to give it a shot. So let's see what happens here. Well, I cannot believe I just did that. I just leased an EV. Oh my gosh. Oh man. So manager comes out and he says, have you ever entertained the thought of an F-150 Lightning? And I was like, well, I've actually looked at them a few times, but the prices on them are insane and I just can't afford that. There's no way. And he was like, no. He's like, Ford is really wanting to move these Lightning trucks right now because the thing is, the tax credit's going away. And Ford, and all the other companies for that matter, I think realize that once that happens, it's going to be even more difficult to move the EVs off the lot. So Ford is being very, very aggressive right now with the deals, trying to move the F-150 Lightnings. So they put some stuff together real quick, didn't take them long at all, and they showed it to me, and they were like, here's what we can do. No money down if you want. We can put you into it as a lease or whatever, but, here's what it is. And I couldn't believe it. The payment, the deal that they're doing on these things, the discounts and the tax credit and everything just comes together. And on top of that, I called my insurance agent just to see what the insurance would cost on this thing to make sure that I'm not going to have any surprises. And it turns out my insurance is going to go down, not up, go down over $300 a year versus the Super Duty. And on top of that, Ford Motor Company is going to pay to have a level 2 fast charger installed at my house. And from what they told me, it's what Ford calls the Pro charger, which can charge up to 80 amps. Now, I don't know what the truck will accept. I haven't really gotten into it yet. I think it'll accept 40 or 50 amps maybe. But anyway, point is they're going to cover the installation of a fast charger at my house. So all I have to do is when I get home from work or Friday night or whatever, I just hook the truck up there at home and it's ready for the next week. So all of this combined, I started really thinking about it, and I was like, that might not be a bad idea. Let me give this a try. It's a lease just for a few years here, it's going to be under full warranty the whole time I've got it. Not going to cost me hardly anything in maintenance. Never have to worry about making repairs out of pocket on it. Let me give it a try. If nothing else, we can make some awesome YouTube videos with this thing, because I got a 26-foot trailer at home and we can do some awesome videos out here in the real world with this thing. So anyway, long story short, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm driving an EV. Didn't plan on driving an EV home today, but sometimes that's the way it works out. So right now I've got it on this screen where you can monitor the miles per kilowatt hour, and I just reset it back there, and apparently it takes a little time for it to be able to make a calculation. There it goes. 6.2. That can't be right. Well, I'm sure it's going to adjust as I drive down the road here. It's a 55-mile-an-hour road, so we'll see. Yeah, there it goes. It's adjusting now. See that? So anyway, we'll see how that goes. I need to figure out how to use the cruise control here and set it at 55. But yeah, this should be pretty interesting. Now, as far as this truck goes, driving it, initial impressions, man, this thing is sweet. So this is what they call the, oh, it's mad at me. Look. It's telling me to watch the road. I am watching the road. I got my hand on the wheel. Anyway, this is what they call the F-150 lightning flash. There we go. I had the camera too close to my face and I didn't like that. The other thing this truck has on it is Blue Cruise, and maybe that's why it's kind of upset with me right now, wanting me to watch the road. But I am watching the road. My eyes are on the road. They're not on the camera. I'm on watching the road. But anyhow, this is the F-150 Lightning Flash. Now, from what I understand, this one is sort of a mid-pack trim level. It doesn't have all the equipment. In fact, there's a couple of things that I wanted that this one doesn't have, like the tailgate step, for example, and the rear locking differential and that kind of thing. So it doesn't have all the options. I mean, you can option that stuff, but it doesn't have all that equipment standard, I guess what I'm trying to say. And but it's a middle pack, and you know, the nice thing about it is it's got the extended range battery, or at least a version of the extended range battery. It doesn't have the standard battery, which will be very nice for me. Wow, we got some rain coming up here. But it does have a lot of cool features. You know, this thing's got automatic high beams, which I love. It's got LED reflector headlights, which I love. It does have a class 4 hitch and a 4-pin and a 7-pin, so I can tow my trailers. Automatic climate control. It's got the Evotex, or whatever they call it, seating, so it's not really leather, but it's not really vinyl either. It's kind of in between, and I'm perfectly okay with that, because I get hot and sweaty in the summertime and get in the truck, and cloth seats get all nasty, and then you have to wash them every so often. You know, you got kids in here sometimes, dogs in here sometimes, a wife in here sometimes, and she's even messier than the dogs. And with these seats, I will be able to just wipe them out, clean them, you know. I've got the adaptive cruise control on right now, which I love. So, you know, satellite radio, gosh, I mean, so it's a pretty well optioned truck. It drives great. A lot of the reviews that I had seen indicated that these things feel really heavy. I don't think it feels really heavy to me. Maybe it's because I'm used to driving a diesel truck. Maybe that's what it is, but to me, this doesn't really feel very heavy. Wow, there's a big rain. So let me get back to the house and we will talk about it just a little bit more. Yeah, so I'm headed down the road. I was on a 55-mile-per-hour road there for a while. This one is 70 miles an hour, even though I'm getting ready to go into a construction zone, so I got to slow down here. But this thing is showing almost 3 miles per kilowatt hour so far. Now, obviously, I have no trailer behind me or anything. Just an unloaded truck, basically, with just me in it. But out here on these highways, these 4-lane highways, this thing is showing almost 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty awesome. Hopefully that trend will continue. Been going through the controls here, the menu options in this screen, and when I got down here to connectivity, I noticed under privacy settings, there's one that says share vehicle data. You can also share the vehicle location, share driving data. Okay, so if you guys remember, about 6 to 9 months ago, somebody at the New York Times published an article about how these automakers, and particularly General Motors, they were really the one that they were getting, you know, that they were calling out. But there's a lot of automakers doing this. They are taking the GPS data and all the different, personal pieces of information that these vehicles are able to collect these days, and they are selling it to third-party companies, which in turn sell it to insurance companies. Okay, so there's that money grab that they're going after. And this is the kind of thing right here that they're doing, like where it says share driving data. So this is where they were taking, snapshots of your driving behavior, sending it to insurance companies, which then use that to rate your policy. If they see that you're somebody who accelerates hard all the time and brakes hard all the time and, this kind of thing, then they might rate you a little bit more dangerous, and therefore your premiums may increase. So this is one of those things I'm definitely going to go through here and turn this stuff off. If you've got one of these trucks and you value your privacy, I would suggest going through here and also go online and do some research about this stuff too and learn about it. I have a feeling that there's probably some older folks who may get a vehicle like this for the first time and they have no idea that this stuff exists or what's done with it, so definitely do some research on this and go through there and turn off some of these things that you don't want to protect your own privacy. All right, so I made it back home, so let's talk about this truck just a little bit. So this is the F-150 Lightning Flash, as I already said, and you can see the little flash marking here on the side. The Oxford white color is pretty much what you find around here. Sometimes I see black ones, but I didn't want another black pickup truck. So I went ahead and took one of the white ones. Got 20-inch wheels, which I'm not a big fan of. From what I understand, these are actually an optional wheel now for 2025. They used to be the standard wheel on the Lightning, but now you can actually get a regular, nicer looking wheel on there as standard equipment, and I think you pay extra to get those. I don't know, but I mean, they're okay. They're just not my favorite. But this particular truck has running boards on it already. It's got the passive entry or whatever Ford calls it, where you can lock the door right here with the key in your pocket, or you can unlock it by grabbing the handle. The dealership went ahead and sprayed it with a spray-in liner. This rubber mat came out of my Super Duty. I kept it and moved it over here. The only thing I'm missing is a bed cover. I feel naked without a bed cover, so I'm going to have to get some kind of a bed cover. This is a 5.5 foot box, obviously. They don't let you have the 6.5 foot box on the Lightning, which is a big bummer. 6.5 foot box would be nice, but I've had smaller beds before, so I can make do with the 5.5. Lightning badging on there also. I think that looks pretty good, by the way. And it just so happens that I'm a meteorologist, and so Lightning Flash, I mean, it's just, to me, it's super cool. Tailgate does not have the step that comes out of the tailgate. I thought that these did, but it does not. And as you just saw, it does not have a dampened tailgate either. I think that at some point during the 2025 model year, Ford went through and decontented a lot of their trucks. I saw that on the Ranger, and apparently they did it on the Lightning also, because I think a lot of the stuff that was standard on this Lightning Flash trim level is no longer there anymore. I think the dampened tailgate is one of those things, but you guys who are Lightning gurus can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but it just sure seems like that through this model year, Ford went through and decontented a lot of their stuff. Obviously, you got your power plugs over here, which is going to be nice. I will actually use that. I know a lot of people don't use that, but we do a lot of camping, and sometimes I need to use power tools away from the house, so I will end up using that. I think that's pretty awesome. Tailgate's not real heavy, and obviously the other side is the same. Now, like I was saying, this thing's got a lot of features. One of the things that they did option on this truck, and I'm glad that they did, as we come around to the front here, is the power cord. So open this up. By the way, that says it can hold 400 pounds. So you can put a lot of stuff in the front. But right here, all these power cords, which I need to open and get the truck hooked up because I need it for tomorrow. But they have an adapter here now that you can use at the Tesla charging stations. You've got a power cord here included. So this was like a $600 option, and I feel like it was really worth it because now, you know, I just got home with the truck. I can go ahead and open this stuff up and hook it up to my electricity here and get some charge going into the truck right off the bat. So that's pretty awesome. If you're going to get one of these trucks, I would highly recommend go ahead and spend the $600 and get that. What else can we talk about here? So here's what's really awesome about this truck. I think I might have already mentioned this. If I did, I'm sorry. I'm going to be redundant and talk about it again. So they've got a promotion going on right now. It's August 2025, where if you lease or buy one of these trucks, Ford will pay to have the home charger installed for you in your garage. So from what they told me, it's the pro version of the charger, so that's like the big dog. It'll charge the truck up a whole lot faster than using a 120 outlet. So that is awesome. That's a complete game changer, because one of the things I was worried about with this truck is I live in a rural area, and in my little town here in Kentucky, there are no public charging stations that I am aware of. So my house is all I've got. And when I go out to the cities around here, obviously there are some public charging stations, but there's not many. You know, in this area where I live, it's just now starting to be kind of a thing, so to speak. And so I guess the point I'm getting to is charging stations here in my local area are few and far between. So that was one of the things I was really concerned about going with a truck like this. When they told me that Ford would pay to install a high-speed charger at my house, that was what sealed the deal right there. If somebody from Ford is listening, that is a great program. That sealed the deal for me, and I have a feeling that a lot of other guys probably feel the same way about it. You have range anxiety, you have a little nervousness about getting away from what you've always known your whole life and going to an electric truck, and the fact that they are going to provide a 240 volt, 80 amp charging system in your garage at home, that is a huge, huge thing. So obviously I can drive the truck back and forth all week to work, and on the weekends I can hook it up here at the house and it'll be ready for the weekend, or it'll be ready for the next week, you know? So that is a big deal. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and open up this stuff and get it connected. I've got an outlet right over there in my barn, and what I have to decide is where I'm gonna ask them to install the fast charger. I've been parking my truck here in this detached pole barn, but I do have like a residential garage up there where my wife parks and where I normally would park the truck, especially in the wintertime, so I don't have to walk out in the snow to get in the truck in the mornings. So I'm thinking that it probably makes more sense to have them install a charger up there at the house. And the great thing about putting it up there is in the future, let's say my wife ends up loving this truck. If she decides to get an EV in the future and, you know, she always parks in the garage, then the charger will already be in there ready to go. So I think it makes more sense to put it up there. But maybe one of these days I'll put one down here in the barn also. All right, so until I get my 240 volt stuff installed, I've just got it hooked up here on 120 volt for now. Hopefully over these next 12 hours before we have to head out of here in the morning, it'll pick up, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15% or something. Every little bit helps. All right, now let's kind of go over a little bit here. So again, this is an F-150 Lightning. There we go. 2025 F-150 Super Crew 4x4. Oxford white with the Active X trimmed seats. The standard equipment on this is pretty nice. I mean, the auto high beams, I'm going to love that. The LED projectors, I'm going to love that out here in this dark rural area that I live in. You know, so you just got a lot of really cool standard equipment here. The 10-way power seat, the great big instrument cluster. You know, here's all your safety stuff. 360-degree camera package is pretty sweet. And it's got a pretty nice warranty. Look at that. 8 years or $100,000 on the electrical components. $60,000 on the rest of the powertrain. So that's not bad. And then here's the options that this particular truck has. Pro Power Onboard, 9.6 kilowatts, $1,200. That is going to be an awesome feature though. And then they charge $175 for a spare wheel and tire. And then there is that mobile power cord for $600. But I really recommend that you get that. So the total MSRP comes to $72,165. But I got $8,500 off the sticker. And I got some other discounts and rebates and benefits. And Ford gave me a super, super awesome interest rate. So they did me really well on this, and the payment came out way lower than you would expect. Not going to get into my personal finances, but trust me, I've bought a lot of vehicles before, and you can actually get into one of these for a very reasonable monthly cost. Yeah, so the driving experience on this. So here's what I'll say. It's not the perfectly silent trip down the road that you might expect it to be. And the reason why is because of the mirrors and the aerodynamics of the truck. I mean, it still makes wind noise going down the road, and that's generally what you're hearing anyway on a pickup truck. You know, if you go out and you test drive a new EcoBoost or even a 5-liter Coyote truck like this, bone stock, it's really hard to hear the engine when you're cruising down the road. You know, I mean, when you're accelerating, you can kind of hear the engine. But once you level out and hit the cruise control, you know how quiet it is. I mean, they've got extensive exhaust and intake systems on them for that purpose, just to quiet them down. And so even a gasoline version of this truck is pretty quiet going down the highway. And so I don't feel like that this truck is more quiet than one of those going down the highway. Because again, what you're hearing mostly is the wind noise coming around the mirrors and the windshield and what have you. However, at slow speed, you know, driving around a parking lot or something like that, it's definitely more quiet. And I feel like you kind of have to get used to it. I mean, I come from a long line of gasoline and diesel trucks. And usually I would get the V8s and I would put exhaust on them and all that kind of stuff. I kind of like to hear what my engine's doing, you know. And so for me to go from loud trucks that I've always had on purpose, like purposefully loud trucks, to this, which is silent almost, it's a big, you know, adjustment. You have to train your brain to it. And it's been a little bit weird so far, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. So anyway, as far as noise level, it's a little quieter at slower speed. Out on the interstate, not really. But it's definitely a quiet truck overall. It's very comfortable. The seats feel really good in this. 2023 and up, I feel like Ford really did a great job redesigning the inside of their trucks, and the seats are a major improvement. So it's comfortable, it rides really good, it handles pretty good. I found that with some of the standard safety features turned on, like the lane keep assist and all that, it tends to kind of feel weird if you're not used to it. If you've never had a vehicle that has that technology before, it's weird, you know, because any drifting in your lane at all, and the truck tries to kind of take over and nudge you back up. And that's just a weird feeling if you're not used to it. But again, you can turn it off with a button in there. The regenerative braking seems to work pretty good. What I noticed, I just drove 39 miles from the dealership to my house, and it says on the dash that I lost 31 miles of range. So I actually traveled 39 miles. I only lost 31 miles of range. So that's not bad. You know, that's not bad. It seems like that for now anyway, it's doing better than what it was rated for. Now, keep in mind, today it's 94 degrees outside. It's smoking hot. I had to run the AC all day. So that surely hurts it a little bit too, right? Energy's not free. So when fall gets here and it cools down and I don't have to run the air conditioning, this truck probably will do even better on range. I'm hoping. So anyhow, so far I really like the truck. You know, once I get the 240 stuff installed, that will take a lot of my anxiety away and I'll feel a whole lot better about this. Right now I'm just a little bit nervous, but I do have a gasoline Charger, or Challenger rather, that I can drive if I have to. So anyway, for the time being, I really like the truck. What I'm looking forward to is doing some testing with it, towing my trailer, you know, and just using it as a truck. You guys know me. If I got a truck out here on this property, we're going to use it as a truck. It's going to see all kinds of weather, terrain. It's going to have stuff in the bed. It's going to have a trailer behind it from time to time. We're going to use it like a truck. And speaking of that, that's one thing that I will say about this Lightning that I have noticed. And again, if Ford is listening, kudos to you guys, because what they have obviously done here is they made this as much like a gasoline F-150 as they could possibly get it. I mean, everything on this is exactly the same. The shifter works the same. The brakes feel the same. The interior is pretty much the same. The exterior is pretty much the same. The controls are the same. I mean, everything on this is just like your standard run-of-the-mill F-150. The only difference, obviously, being that you hook it up to an outlet when it gets empty. Other than that, you wouldn't hardly be able to tell this from any other F-150. So I like that. I think that's a really great approach because EV stuff is just kind of coming in, you know, and being normalized. And if you take this approach, I think that's better for weaning in new customers. Like, for example, I would never buy or lease a Cybertruck. It's just too radical for me. I even looked at a Rivian. Something like this is just more traditional, more what I'm used to. And, you know, I think that's a great approach on Ford's part. Anyway, I love the truck so far. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully the wife will love it. I think that she's going to be, here's my guess. I think my wife is going to be skeptical at first, but I think after she rides in it for a while and lives with it with me for a while, I think she's going to end up loving this. The power outlets front and rear, how quiet it is on the inside, how good it rides compared to the F-250. I think she's going to end up falling in love with this truck. We'll see, but I think she is. So anyway, F-150 Lightning Flash, cool name for a weather guy like me. I love it. I'm going to have to get this thing charged up and start putting it to work, and we will see how this truck is going to handle being out here in the rural part of Kentucky working for a living. So if you don't already have a subscription to the channel, hit the subscribe button down there and the bell if you don't mind, and follow along. I know there's a lot of videos on these trucks out there. I know there are, but everybody's use case is different. And I think my use case for this truck is going to be different than the average Lightning buyer. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how well this truck can replace a diesel truck. All right. By the way, this thing's got 2,000 pounds of payload according to the sticker down there. That's pretty good for a half-ton truck, you know? 700 pounds of towing capacity. I really wish it had the max tow package because that comes with 10,000 pounds of towing capacity and the electronic locker in the back, which would have been sweet, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. And just so you can see how long it takes to charge one of these things if all you've got is a 120 outlet, it's at 62% right now, and today is Saturday, and it says it will be at 100% at 9:26 in the morning on Tuesday. Okay, so that's 2.5 days is basically what that is to get from 62% to 100%. So 2.5 days to get 40% of charge. Yeah, that's going to be kind of miserable. Got to get some 240 volt stuff going out here.